Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Right now, he's hanging out on his tour bus out on 53rd Street. So I'm going to go out there to interview the one, the only, Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson weren't just country legends. They were brothers in music, in life, and in spirit. Both men came from humble beginnings but found their way to the top, breaking hearts and winning awards along the way. Their paths crossed in the spotlight, but it was the bond behind the scenes that told the real story. They shared the stage, the struggles, and the victories. Now, at 92, Willie is finally speaking on the truth behind their friendship. And after Kris's passing, his words hit even harder. Join us as we take a closer look at their journey and see what happened and how it all unfolded. Willie Nelson, from small-town boy to country legend. Willie Hugh Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, in Abbott, Texas. His birthday was actually recorded wrong as April 30th by the doctor who delivered him. His cousin Mildred gave him the name Willie, adding Hugh in memory of her younger brother who had passed away. Willie's family had moved to Texas from Arkansas in 1929 looking for work. His grandfather was a blacksmith and his father worked as a mechanic. Life took a hard turn early on. His mother left soon after he was born, and his father remarried and moved away. Willie and his sister Bobby were raised by their grandparents who taught music and started the children young. His grandfather bought him a guitar when he was 6 and showed him a few chords. Soon, Willie was singing gospel songs in the local church with Bobby. By the age of 7, he had written his first song, and by 9, he was playing guitar in a local band called Bohemian Polka. Summers were spent picking cotton with the rest of the town, but Willie didn't like it. So he began earning money singing in dance halls and honky-tonks from the age of 13. His early music influences included legends like Jimmie Rodgers, Hank Williams, Ray Price, and even Frank Sinatra and Louis Armstrong. In high school, Willie was a busy student, playing football, basketball, and baseball, while also raising pigs with the future farmers of America. He joined a band called the Texans, led by his sister's husband, and they even had a Sunday morning radio spot. Willie tried different jobs, from being a phone operator to trimming trees, working in a pawn shop, and later joining the U.S. Air Force after school. His military career was cut short after 8 months due to back problems. Returning home, he married Martha Matthews in 1952 and went to Baylor University to study agriculture. But his heart was in music, and he eventually dropped out to chase that dream. From radio booths to songwriting success, Willie's path to music stardom started with radio. After moving to Pleasanton, Texas, he got a job as a DJ at KBOP, even though he had no experience. Using the station's equipment, he recorded his first songs, "The Storm Has Just Begun" and "When I've Sung My Last Hillbilly Song," but they were rejected by a local label. Still, he kept working at radio stations across Texas, teaching Sunday school, and playing in nightclubs. Willie then tried moving to San Diego for work, but failed to find a job. Hitchhiking to Portland, Oregon, where his mother lived, he ended up sleeping in a ditch before a truck driver gave him $10 for a bus ticket. Eventually, he found a job at KVN in Vancouver, Washington, and even appeared on TV. He made his first record in 1956, "No Place for Me," but it didn't take off. For a time, Willie quit music and sold Bibles and vacuum cleaners before becoming a sales manager for an encyclopedia company. His big break came in 1958 when he moved to Houston and stopped by the Esquire Ballroom to sell songs to Larry Butler. Butler didn't buy them, but gave Willie a job singing 6 nights a week and lent him money for an apartment. Around this time, Willie sold the song Family Bible for $50 and Nightlife for $150. Family Bible later became a hit for Claude Gray. In 1960, he moved to Nashville but struggled to get signed until songwriter Hank Cochran introduced him to Pamper Music, owned by Ray Price. Farron Young recorded Willie's song "Hello Walls," which became a hit in 1961, giving him national attention as a songwriter. Soon, artists like Roy Orbison and Patsy Cline were recording his songs, including "Crazy," which became one of the biggest jukebox hits ever, building his career and finding his own sound. By the early 1960s, Willie was recording his own music under Liberty Records, with singles like "Willingly" and "Touch Me" reaching the top 10. He moved briefly to California for work but returned to Tennessee. signing with RCA Victor in 1964 for $10,000 a year. That same year, he joined the Grand Ole Opry and met Waylon Jennings, a friendship that would change his career. His backing band, the Recordmen, formed in 1967, and while he had moderate hits like One in a Row and The Party's Over, Willie wasn't fully satisfied with the direction of his music. By 1970, his marriage to Shirley Colley ended, his ranch burned down, and he was frustrated with RCA's control over his work. He decided to retire from music altogether, but in 1972, Willie moved to Austin, Texas, where the local hippie music scene gave him new energy. The next year, he signed with Atlantic Records as their first country artist and recorded Shotgun Willie, which critics loved but didn't sell well. His follow-up, Phases and Stages, was a concept album inspired by his own divorce. In 1975, Willie moved to Columbia Records with a contract that gave him complete creative control. That year, he released Red-Headed Stranger, a stripped-down album that Columbia doubted would work, but it included Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, which became his first #1 hit as a singer. This success, along with his growing reputation in Austin, made Willie a central figure in the outlaw country movement alongside Waylon Jennings. The Highwayman years and unstoppable success. By the mid-1970s, Willie and Waylon had become the faces of outlaw country, breaking Nashville's strict rules. In 1976, along with Jesse Coulter and Tompel Glazer, they released Wanted the Outlaws, the first country album to go platinum. Willie followed it with hit albums like The Sound in Your Mind and Troublemaker. But life off stage brought challenges. His manager was caught up in a drug case, and Willie had to make big changes in his team. In 1978, he released 2 more platinum albums, including Waylon and Willie, featuring the hit Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. In the 1980s, Willie kept the hits coming with songs like On the Road Again, To All the Girls I've Loved Before, and Pancho and Lefty with Merle Haggard. During the recording of Pancho and Lefty, guitarist Johnny Christopher pitched him Always on My Mind. Willie recorded it, and it became a massive hit, winning 3 Grammys and going quadruple platinum. Then came one of the biggest collaborations in country music history, The Highwaymen. Willie, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Kris Kristofferson formed the supergroup in the mid-1980s. They sold millions, toured the world, and became an unforgettable force in music. At the same time, Willie devoted himself to charity, helping organize the first Farm Aid concert in 1985, which continues to this day. He also shared unforgettable moments like performing at the White House and, as he later admitted, even smoking marijuana on the roof. Willie's journey was remarkable, but his story was only half of a legendary friendship. To understand the other half, we need to look at the man who stood beside him for decades, Kris Kristofferson. Kristoffer Kristofferson, from military roots to academic success. Kristoffer Kristofferson was born in Brownsville, Texas, in 1936. He was the oldest of 3 children in a military family. His father, Henry Kristofferson, served in the United States Army Air Corps and later became a major general in the Air Force. After retiring, his father worked as a manager for Saudi Aramco. Growing up, Kris's father strongly encouraged him to follow a military path. Because of his father's service, the family moved often before settling in San Mateo, California. Kris graduated from San Mateo High School in 1954. At 17, he worked a summer job on Wake Island in the Pacific Ocean, calling it the hardest job I ever had. He then went to Pomona College in California to study literature, learning under Professor Frederick Sontag, who became a major influence in his life. Kris's writing talent showed early. 2 of his essays, The Rock and Gone Are the Days, were published in the Atlantic Monthly. While studying, he worked in construction and as a firefighter, and even excelled in sports like rugby, football, and track. He and friends brought back the Claremont College's rugby club, which still exists today. In 1958, Kris graduated summa cum laude in literature and was elected to the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society. That same year, he was awarded a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford University in England, where he studied at Merton College. While there, he performed his own songs and signed with music manager Larry Parnes, who tried to market him as a Yank at Oxford. He recorded under the name Kris Carson, but the effort failed to take off. In 1960, Kris graduated with a degree in English literature. From the Army to Nashville Dreams. In 1961, Kris married his longtime girlfriend Frances Fran Beer. That same year, he joined the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant. He trained at the Army Ranger School, became a helicopter pilot, and was stationed in West Germany with the 8th Infantry Division. While serving, he formed a band that played at service clubs. He also met Marianne Wilkin, the aunt of his platoon commander, who would later help him in the music industry. By the time his military tour ended in 1965, Kris had been promoted to captain and reassigned to teach English literature at West Point. But music kept calling him. While on a 2-week leave, he visited Wilkin in Nashville and decided to leave the Army to become a songwriter. The move upset his parents, but he was determined. Wilkin signed him to her publishing company, Buckhorn Music. His first big pitch was the song Talkin' Vietnam Blues to Dave Dudley. To make ends meet, Kris worked as a bartender, construction worker, railroad worker, and even as a janitor at Columbia Records. Working there let him meet artists and sit in on recording sessions. In 1967, he released his debut single Golden Idol and Killing Time, but it didn't make waves. After his second child was born with health problems in 1968, Kris took a job flying helicopters for an oil company in Louisiana. On weekends, he returned to Nashville to pitch songs. The grind was exhausting. His family was in California, and his career seemed stuck. But in 1 week, 3 of his songs were recorded by big names: Jody and the Kid by Roy Drusky, Help Me Make It Through the Night by Jerry Lee Lewis, and Me and Bobby McGee by Roger Miller. He even tried to pitch songs to Johnny Cash through June Carter, but the tapes got lost in a pile. Determined to get Cash's attention, Kris famously landed a helicopter in Cash's yard. The bold move worked. Cash invited him to perform at the Newport Folk Festival in 1969. Soon after, Monument Records signed him as a recording artist and Combine Music took him on as a songwriter. Kris later admitted, "I can't sing, I sound like a frog," but the deal was done. Breakthrough hits and acting roles. In 1969, Kris divorced Fran and went to Peru to work on the film The Last Movie. While he was away, Johnny Cash continued promoting his songs. When Kris returned to Nashville, he found his music was gaining attention. In June 1970, he released his debut album Kristofferson, writing or co-writing every track. The album didn't sell well but got strong reviews, with critics praising his ability to mix smart lyrics with country storytelling. That same year, Johnny Cash's version of Sunday Morning Comin' Down won Kris the Country Music Association Award for Song of the Year. Kris made his singing debut at the Troubadour in Los Angeles and was considered for acting roles. He turned up drunk to one audition, but accepted the lead in Cisco Pike, despite being told to take acting lessons first. In the early 70s, Kris toured for 18 months, but heavy drinking and walking pneumonia put him in the hospital. During this time, he became friends with Janis Joplin. Soon after, her posthumous album Pearl featured his song Me and Bobby McGee, which became a massive hit. In 1971, he released his second album, The Silver-Tongued Devil and I, which included Lovin' Her Was Easier Than Anything I'll Ever Do Again, and collaborations with writers like Shel Silverstein. His third album, Borderlord, came in 1972 but didn't sell well. That year, he won a Grammy for Help Me Make It Through the Night. His fourth album, Jesus Was a Capricorn, had slow sales until the single Why Me became a huge success, selling over 1 million copies. Kris also appeared on the BBC's The Old Grey Whistle Test with Rita Coolidge, performing his award-winning song. Peak years, big collaborations, and Willie Nelson connection. In 1973, Kris received an honorary doctorate from Pomona College and married Rita Coolidge 4 months later. Together, they released the successful album Full Moon, which brought Grammy nominations. His 1974 album Spooky Ladies Sideshow failed commercially, but his songwriting continued to shine for other artists. Willie Nelson recorded an entire album of his songs in 1979. Willie Nelson Sings Kristofferson, which went platinum. That same year, Kris and Rita traveled to Cuba for the Havana Jam Festival, performing alongside artists from the U.S. and Cuba. In November 1979, the couple appeared on The Muppet Show, singing both solo and together. They divorced in 1980. In 1982, Kris teamed up with Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, and Brenda Lee for the album The Winning Hand, which reached the country top 10. He married Lisa Myers and shifted focus to acting, appearing in films like The Lost Honor of Catherine Beck, Flashpoint, and Songwriter. The film Songwriter starred both him and Willie Nelson, and the soundtrack featured their duets, becoming a country success. This period marked not just his peak as a songwriter and performer, but also the deepening of his friendship and creative bond with Willie, a connection that would last for decades and leave an unforgettable mark on country music history. The birth of a country supergroup. In 1985, Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson teamed up with Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash to form one of country music's most famous supergroups, the Highwaymen. At first, they didn't even have an official name. Their debut album was simply credited to Nelson, Jennings, Cash, Kristofferson. But the title track, Highwaymen, written by Jimmy Webb, became a #1 hit and gave the group its name. The album also had a hit with their cover of Guy Clark's Desperados Waiting for a Train, which reached the top 20. Produced by Chips Moman, this first project showed that the four legends were just as powerful together as they were on their own. Their chemistry wasn't just in the studio. They even starred together in the 1986 film Stagecoach, showing the same kind of unity on screen. However, the group's name soon became the center of a legal battle. A folk group from the 1950s and 1960s, also called the Highwaymen, sued them over the rights. The matter ended peacefully, with the earlier group agreeing to let them use the name under a license. The two groups even performed together at a Hollywood concert in 1990. Hits, awards, and memorable collaborations. The Highwaymen returned in 1990 with their second album, Highwayman 2. It reached #4 on the country charts and was once again produced by Chips Moman. The first single, Silver Stallion by Lee Clayton, made the top 40. 6 of the songs on this album were written or co-written by members of the group. The album was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Country Vocal Collaboration, showing they still had the magic that brought them together. Their final album, The Road Goes On Forever, was released in 1995 under the name Highwaymen and produced by Don Was. The title track was a Robert Earl Keen song, and the single It Is What It Is became a standout. A 10th anniversary edition in 2005 included bonus tracks and a DVD with behind-the-scenes footage and music videos. Even after the albums, the group continued touring into the late 1990s, but health problems began to affect both Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash, slowing down the pace of their performances. Despite the challenges, all four men kept performing solo, with Jennings even joining another supergroup called Old Dogs for a short time before his death in 2002. Cash followed a year later in 2003. The loss of two members changed everything, but the friendship and respect among them remained a big part of their legacy. Life after the Highwaymen and lasting bonds. After Jennings and Cash passed away, Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson continued to work together. While they didn't use the Highwaymen name again, they still performed songs connected to the group. In November 2003, they reunited on stage to perform Johnny Cash's Big River with George Jones at a memorial concert for Cash in Nashville. Kristofferson later reflected on those years, saying, "Those tours and the records we made were a great time. I just wish I was more aware of how lucky I was to share a stage with those people. I had no idea that 2 of them would be done so soon. Hell, I was up there and I had all my heroes with me. These are guys whose ashtrays I used to clean. I'm kind of amazed I wasn't more amazed." The bond between these men ran deeper than music. It was about shared respect and years of friendship. In 2012, Nelson and Kristofferson joined Jamie Johnson and Snoop Dogg for the single Roll Me Up and Smoke Me When I Die, showing that their rebellious spirit was still alive. 4 years later, they recorded a special virtual collaboration of One Too Many Mornings, adding archived vocals from Cash and Jennings from the 1980s. This track appeared on the live album Live American Outlaws, recorded back in 1990. Kris Kristofferson's later career and final years. The Highwaymen years gave Kris a new spotlight, but he never stopped working on his own. In 1985, alongside the release of the group's debut album, he starred in the film Trouble in Mind and put out Repossessed, a politically charged album featuring the song They Killed Him. a tribute to his heroes like Martin Luther King Jr., Jesus, and Mahatma Gandhi. He also appeared in the miniseries America, which imagined life in America under Soviet control. By the early 1990s, his solo music career slowed down, but his work with the Highwaymen kept him relevant in country music. In 1996, his acting career got a boost when he starred in the film Lone Star. That opened doors to roles in major films like Blade, Blade 2, Blade Trinity, Fire Down Below, Planet of the Apes, Payback, The Jacket, and Fast Food Nation. Over the years, his achievements were recognized, including being inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1985 and the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame back in 1977. In 1999, he released the Austin Sessions, where he reworked some of his favorite songs with artists like Mark Knopfler, Steve Earle, and Jackson Browne. Shortly after the album came out, he underwent coronary artery bypass surgery. Sadly, in 2024, Kris Kristofferson passed away, leaving Willie Nelson as the last living member of the Highwaymen. Willie Nelson on losing Kris Kristofferson. In September 2024, Willie Nelson lost not just a fellow musician, but a close friend. Kris Kristofferson passed away peacefully at his home in Maui, Hawaii, at the age of 88. The cause of death was not made public. Speaking to the Associated Press, Willie said, "Kris was a great friend of mine, and we just kind of had a lot of fun together and made a lot of music together. Videos, movies. I hated to lose him. That was a sad time." The two had shared decades of friendship and creativity from the studio to the big screen. They had starred in films like Stagecoach in 1986, Pair of Aces in 1990, and The Long Kill in 1999. Kris's last public performance before his death was at Willie's 90th birthday celebration in April 2023, where he performed alongside Rosanne Cash. Remembering their deep connection, Willie once told Rolling Stone in 2009, "I think we're about as close as friends can be. I think we understand all we need to understand about each other." Kris's wife, Lisa, also reflected on the camaraderie of the Highwaymen, saying, "Audiences adored them, but they couldn't know how great those men really were together behind the scenes. It was a decade of rolling laughter and love." The last Highwayman standing. Willie Nelson, Kris Kristofferson, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash formed the Highwaymen in the mid-1980s. They recorded 3 albums, toured the world, and became one of the most famous groups in country music history. Their first album, Highwayman, topped the charts, and the title track became a #1 hit. The group's energy carried them through the 1980s and 1990s, but time eventually took its toll. Waylon Jennings died in 2002, and Johnny Cash passed away in 2003. Now, with Kris gone, Willie stands as the only surviving member. Speaking about this, he told the Associated Press, "If you just take the music part of it and go back to, Waylon and Kris and John and, all of us working together, the Highwaymen, and then I am the only one left, and that's just not funny." The weight of that reality is clear, but Willie chooses to keep moving forward, carrying the music they made together. His respect for Kris's songwriting remains strong. "He left a lot of fantastic songs around for the rest of us to sing for as long as we're here," Willie said. Those songs remain a part of Willie's shows and a reminder of the bond they shared. Willie, at 92, still living the life he loves. While many would expect him to slow down, Willie Nelson is still going strong at 92. He admits that retirement wouldn't change much for him because the life he loves is making music with friends. In June 2025, he's set to tour with Bob Dylan on the Outlaw Music Festival's second leg. When asked about having his life turned into a feature film like Dylan's A Complete Unknown, Willie simply said, "I've heard some talk about it, but I'm not through with it yet." He's still busy, releasing his 77th studio album, Oh What a Beautiful World, a full record of songs by his friend Rodney Crowell. This comes 50 years after his landmark album Red-Headed Stranger. Willie also has a history of honoring the work of others, like in 1979 when he released Willie Nelson Sings Kristofferson, covering his friend's songs. His schedule remains packed, from making new music to preparing for the 40th anniversary of Farm Aid in September 2025. Even in interviews, Willie's humor shines through. When talking about letting Bob Dylan headline their shows, he said, "Bob's a good friend, and I'll be glad to let him headline." Speaking of which, Willie's live shows remain as unpredictable as ever. He never uses a set list. "I'd rather play it off the top of my head, because I can read the crowd pretty good. They jump in there, he said. His band includes family in more ways than one. His sons Lucas and Micah often join him, along with Billy English on drums, Waylon Payne on guitar, and longtime harmonica player Mickey Raphael, the only other surviving member of his classic band lineup. Many original members have passed away, including bassist B. Spears, guitarist Jody Payne, drummer Paul English, and Willie's sister Bobby Nelson. Yet the music continues, blending classics like Whiskey River and Bloody Mary Morning with newer songs like Tom Waits' Last Leaf, which Willie calls a perfect reflection of his survivor status. The lyrics say, "I'm the last leaf on the tree. The autumn took the rest, but it won't take me." It's a song his son Micah found for him, and it's become a favorite with audiences. Willie also performs Micah's own songs like Everything Is Be-Bossy, alongside gospel standards such as I'll Fly Away and Will the Circle Be Unbroken. For him, it's all part of the same message. It's all gospel, he says with a laugh. This September, Willie will again take the stage for Farm Aid's 40th anniversary. Still committed to the cause he co-founded in 1985 with Neil Young and John Mellencamp. With every performance, Willie shows that even after losing so many dear friends, he's still here, living the life he loves and keeping their legacy alive. And while his bond with Kris was built on decades of music, laughter, and trust, it's clear that connection will always live on in the songs they shared. What's your favorite Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson moment or song? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.